We are. We're live now.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, great to see you all. Um, I know we're a little bit behind, so our apologies. Our programs committee ran a little bit over. We had some important items to discuss on there. So very good work happening at the Finance Authority of New Orleans, or Finance New Orleans as we are now called. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Roll call. Chair Stephen Smith. Vice Chair Giselle Johnson Banks.
Present.
Secretary Treasurer G. Wade Wooten. Board Member Charles Brown.
Here.
Board Member Edgar Chase IV.
Here.
Board Member Andronika Morris.
Present.
Board Member Hunter Thomas. A quorum is present.
I'm sorry, just to make sure that we captured Mr. Wooten's here.
I apologize. I was on mute. I am indeed present.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we got him kind of for the record. No problem.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any old business?
No.
All right. Are there any public comments?
No public comments at this time.
Thank you. All right, we'll move right along to new business. First item is approval of the July 21st, 2020 board meeting minutes. I entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved. Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, I'm saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, meetings are approved. I'm sorry, minutes are approved. Next on the new business is fiscal year 2019 financial audit status update.
All right, I'll provide that update. Good afternoon, board. So the audit is still in process. Last time we met, our goal was to get a draft. We thought we can get it completed by the first week of August. That has been pushed back pending some open items and just some validations that's being performed between our auditors, PNN, and Bruno and Turvalon. So I've been working with them. We're working this week to kind of close out some of those open items and be ready for a draft next week and possibly a final report by the end of the month. The goal is to provide you with a review of that final draft as soon as it's available, but before the next board meeting, with the goal of being able to approve the final for sign off at the next meeting, but within the deadline at September 30th. So that's what I have in terms of the audit.
Thank you, Mr. Badger. And we don't see any issues with meeting those deadlines, right?
Yeah, and at this point, I don't know of any red flags or anything at this point, but, as I, become aware, if I become aware, I'll definitely communicate that out.
Thank you. All right. Okay, next is Finance and Investments Committee report. We'll move to market report.
All right, so yeah, I'll cover that report as well. So overall, just a lot of uncertainty in the overall markets. We're seeing a lot of economies slowly restarting, but they're restarting at different paces. The market has come to acknowledge that, the direction of the economy will, kind of depend on the path of the outbreak, the delivery of the stimulus, as well as just consumer and corporate behaviors and how those behaviors perform. So it appears we're starting to see a downward trend in the COVID data, which is promising. That can take a turn, especially with the reopening of schools. So, you know, that's up in the air. In terms of the much needed stimulus, those talks have stalled. We've seen an attempt from the, you know, the president to bridge that gap with his executive order. However, that has faced some legal challenges and some roadblocks from lawmakers. So, you know, that's resulting in little spending and little movement at this time. On the local front, there's a totally different story. Of course, we're seeing some adverse news. We're seeing some data start to come out that's suggesting there is some severe financial impact across Louisiana and across New Orleans. We're seeing some well-named restaurants and businesses that are closing. We're seeing some layoffs starting to come. A lot of news around that. There's some recent research that Louisiana ranks second in the nation in terms of percentage of homeowners that are late on their mortgage payments. And so the national average is 7%. Louisiana is sitting currently at 11%, which is behind Mississippi at 12.5. And then looking into the actual cities, New Orleans is at 13%, behind Lafayette at 11% and Baton Rouge at 10.6. So, you know, New Orleans sitting at the top and being higher, of course, is a direct result of our tourist-dependent economy. We'll keep digging in and looking at those and monitoring those local numbers. Overall, fixed rate rates have maintained at historical lows. Munis have maintained good supplies, strong demand. On the mortgage side, still historical low rates as well. There's been a surge in refinances, but that could be curtailed by recent news by Fannie and Freddie that they're including a new adverse market refinance fee. That's a 0.5 percentage point. So that kind of comes by way for them to kind of mitigate some of the additional risk that's brought on by COVID, but it kind of validates some of the uncertainty in the market. So, you know, the story remains the same in terms of the theme of uncertainty, but we're trying to key in on that local data as it starts to trickle in, and you know, because we know New Orleans would be a kind of an outlier of the entire recovery. So we're keying in. I've recently joined the weekly housing impact call meeting with Ms. Morris and the Housing NOLA, along with some other partners and stakeholders, just to share ideas on how to get to this data and how to analyze it on a local level and kind of put our heads together on a solution. And those meetings have been very impactful. And just want to thank Ms. Morris for the invitation to those calls. But those are very impactful. We feel like we're getting a handle on some of that local data. Any questions on the market update?
No questions? Okay. You can go ahead and move on to the financial status report.
All right. So moving right along. I apologize, there's no page numbers here, so I'll reference the title pages. So the first page is a comprehensive snapshot of our financial status report as of June. This provides a look at our actual year-to-date versus budget year-to-date revenues and expenses. You'll see revenues were 68, so budget 68,000.
Byron, I think we lost you. Byron. Byron, we lost you. Can you all hear him?
No.
No? Okay.
He was using, he's still talking too. He was using his phone, but we lost his phone.
I'm getting him on the phone.
Okay, thank you. You're gonna have to catch his breath and do it all over again.
Nice. ED would be so cool.
You must not be looking at the screen.
Hey, he's not answering the phone.
I just tried to call him as well, and I think his phone may have died.
Yeah.
Give me the meeting ID. Trying something on my computer. Damon,
Brown?
Sure.
may I have the meeting ID? I've got it on my phone. I'm trying to get it on my computer. May I have the meeting ID? I didn't get that. I tried to go in.
I'm getting it for you, Mr.
That
Brown.
link that you gave me, but it didn't work. The link didn't work for me. I'm
I'm
trying.
Okay,
Okay,
Elizabeth's gonna send
I'm
it to
giving
you.
it.
Brown.
I'm sorry.
To me, it's,
Bianca?
The meeting ID, please.
Yes,
To me-
Mr. Brown, we're sending that your way.
How?
We're sending it to you, okay?
Okay. All you have to do is tell it to me, or either send it to me. Okay.
If you're ready, I can tell it to you now.
Hello?
I see it, Ms. Morris, but I've got the prompt up and it says, just give me the meeting ID. 82 something. Let me see if it's in the meeting.
868.
Can you just?
What?
Mr. Brown?
We are totally out of order right now. Can you type it in the chat, Elizabeth, Mr. Brown?
Hello?
Get that to you some type of way. Bianca, let's move on to the programs committee report, please.
we can hear.
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear Byron now if we want.
Oh, you can hear. Oh, Byron. Okay.
Yeah, so we want to go back and
Byron.
But I was gone, huh?
Yeah, we didn't hear any of the financial status report. So I'm sorry, but could you start over?
No, that's quite all right. And I apologize. I was having some issues with the computer, so I dialed in. So I guess my phone has some issues now. So I'll quickly try to run through the financial status report again here. So,
all right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So page one, just a comprehensive snapshot of our actual year-to-date versus our budgeted year-to-date revenues and expenses. Actual revenues were 68,000 to a budget of 104,000. Actual expenses were 701,000 versus a budget of 947,000, which is favorable to budget by 245,000. On page two is a look into the revenues. The driver there is just the fact that we don't have that multifamily revenue generated just yet, but it's projected to come very soon. On the expense side, which is the next page, all the line items are favorable, driven by the salaries and benefits line, the marketing and advertising, and consulting and professional services. Next page kind of looks at our pathways, revenues, and expenses. There's no activity here. Slight increase on the expense side, but overall year to date, our revenues are 30,000 and expenses year to date are 23,000. Next page kind of looks at a analysis by month. And so we're trending within averages with a slight increase given some timing of some expenses there. Next page is the balance sheet comparison report. Given the minimal activity, the composition remains fairly stable here. And then, and finally is the summary of cash accounts by fund. And our overall cash is at 11.2, which is down slightly from 11.3 month over month and within our projected, our projections within our budget. And that's what I have for the financial status report. Any questions, comments?
All right, thank you, Byron. Any questions? No. Okay. Thank you so much, Byron. Sorry that we had to have you.
No, that's quite all right. I apologize on my end as well.
That's okay. All right. We are now to the programs committee report. Ms. Bianca.
Sure. So this is July 2020 Programs Committee report.
Moving along, this is your demographic report on the On New Orleans single family program. This report really highlights the origination summaries, kind of gives you a breakdown of that: annual income, household size, loan amounts, purchase price, loan types. So this report is an analysis report of the On New Orleans single family program. Really gives you all the information needed to show your statuses on that report. And it's a report we'll continue to give on a monthly basis. Moving on from the single families report, we're going into the community support fund. The community support fund July 2020 report. We'll start off with a summary. Summary talks about applications requested. This is the total number of applicants that have contacted Finance New Orleans and requesting an application. That's 403 applications received. Out of those applications requested, we received a total of 138 applications. Incomplete applications has been 99, and applications denied has been 166. And like I shared with the programs committee, I'll just share with the full board going forward. I'll do a better job to do a better breakout of that applications denied, because what that actually means is that have been applicants that have kind of contacted us who have not really met the time frame that's kind of outlined in the criteria, that 10-day time frame. So they've not submitted an application at all. Those applicants have kind of received other type of subsidy assistance such as HUD, Section 8. So I'll do a better breakout of that just so you can get a sense of what that actual denial means. We're not actually denying people funding. It's just that the criteria that we've set and not receiving an application, we just can't move forward with processing. And when total amount dispersed, that comes out to 11,725. Then we go to the demographics, kind of break it down by applications received by council district. Council District A 16, Council District B 19, Council District C 25, Council District D 42, Council District E 36. Then we do like an average age, which is 41. We talk about the gender: female 78%, male 22%, marital status, married 2%, single 98%. Then we talk about the employment status: employed 37%, unemployed 59%, furloughed is 4%. So we kind of just give a breakout of the demographics of completed applications received through the Community Support Fund. Leaving that, going into the developer pipeline. This is kind of updated pipeline for our multifamily program. We'll provide this to you monthly. We kind of switched it up a little bit just to give you a better breakout of what overall is contained and kind of where we at with these projects. So at the top is just a full pipeline of projects that we've currently not seen. Going into the next section, it talks about CNO OCD conditional funding. So these are projects that are really conditional funding by the Office of Community Development that are still waiting some additional funding sources or still have some other things to provide to them before receiving full funding. FNO pre-screen projects, these are projects that have actually went through the underwriting committee that we've actually reviewed. As you can see to the right, it kind of gives you the application status, whether they've received a pre-application, whether they've sent it back, whether they've received a full application, and currently where that's at the moment. Then you go into FNO approved projects. This is the underwriting committee. We've approved the following projects: McDonald 19 and the Sheffman Tour projects, which you'll hear about later. And we had a conditionally approved project, which was the Barone Lofts. So this is currently that breakout of the multifamily program pipeline. That really concludes the programs committee report for July 2020. Any questions on that? Thank you, Bianca. Directors, any questions, feedback? Thank you all. All right, moving right along. We will discuss the programs committee is recommended preliminary approval of 2 development projects. One is the 4948 Sheffman Tour Apartments revitalization. You should have, I think, resolutions in the board packet. Is that correct, Damon?
Yes, that is correct.
Resolutions?
We do. And if I could, Madam Vice Chair.
Yes.
At this moment, or when you're ready, General Counsel will read the summary of the resolutions so that board can have an understanding of what they're about to approve. But yes, the resolutions are provided in the packet.
Okay, perfect. That's a great segue. So we have the two projects, and we can go right to Jade to review those resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board members, and as well as the public that is joining us via YouTube. Just to quickly recap what we reviewed over during the programs committee meeting. What is being requested or recommended, I should say, by staff and by the programs committee to the full body at this point is a recommendation for approval of a preliminary approval for two projects that have submitted applications for pilot agreements. And so before you, and included in your packets, I think staff sent these out to you all. There is a resolution, and we will have to take these up by separate votes. The first is a resolution giving preliminary approval and authorization to proceed with the development of an in lieu of tax plan in connection with the construction and redevelopment of a nationally registered historic 8-story building located at 4948 Chef Mentor Highway, New Orleans, Louisiana, for 4948 Chef Mentor Apartments LP, which is the applicant, and providing for other matters with respect to the foregoing. So for clarity, the board again is considering for preliminary approval. What does that mean? That means that there's still a lot of work left to do. So the staff, along with their underwriting committee, and it will also have to go back before the programs committee. Before final approval, the staff and committees will do work around, number one, ensuring that all of the pieces of the application are finalized and that the projects meet the criteria. They will also be conducting an internal cost benefit analysis, which justifies the use of the pilot structures on any given project. And of course, we would also be developing all of the underlying agreements for your review upon final approval. So today is a big step, but it's the first step, and it's this preliminary approval that we're seeking from the board, from the staff recommendation, as well as a recommendation that was fully supported by the programs committee. Madam Chair?
Yes, thank you so much, Jade. The programs committee went through the projects, and we had a detailed summary of the project, and we went through with the program detail and also the fiscal review. And so if there is, I don't know, should I make that as the programs chair and vice chair?
You certainly can make, yeah, you certainly can make a motion, and of course it would need to be seconded. Yes. But the motion that you're making is the summary of the resolution that I just read into the record.
Yes. I will move that the full board provide a preliminary approval of the summary resolution just read by General Counsel as recommended by the Programs Committee on 4948 Chef Mentor Apartments.
Second.
Thank you.
This is Wade. I have a quick question for Jade. So Jade, yes. I'm assuming that like this preliminary approval's required for a reason?
Yeah, so the preliminary approval is a requirement just by law. It has to go before the board twice in this instance. Now there will be, and I chatted about this with the programs committee earlier, there is a more abbreviated process for projects that are only pilots and that are in the inclusionary zones. So if you recall, we collaborated with the city and we structured a CEA agreement with them to ensure that we could have a kind of a fast track process for those projects. And that was something that was agreed upon between FANO and the city. But those projects do not have any bond financing or tax credit financing. These two projects actually do, although it's not through FANO. So there is that, again, it's a more lengthy process, but yes, it's required for us to have both steps of this process. That is also required for staff to have a public hearing on these projects because of the pilot structure. So because these are tax dollars that are being expended upon, by FANO, we're required to have a more lengthy process.
Again, I just have one more question. I'm sorry, which is, yes, not that I'm opposed to this. I guess the question is at this preliminary stage, from the board's perspective, what would be? Can you give an example of an instance where we would push back and say no, we're not comfortable?
Well,
I'm just trying to understand again, from a duty responsibility perspective.
Sure, absolutely. It's a great question. During the programs committee meeting, both Bianca and Byron kind of went through some summaries of the various projects, the feasibility of the projects. You also, as board members, may get community feedback on a project. There may not be enough community support for any given project by any given community stakeholder. And so from a duty of loyalty, fiduciary duty of responsibility, those would be some of the situations where you would question a project. Of course, the programs committee is kind of your first line of defense. And so in that committee meeting we just had, there was a much more lengthy presentation. And if the board felt like they needed a lengthy presentation, I'm sure staff would accommodate as well. But those would be instances where you would not. Again, you also have second bites at the apple, right? This is preliminary. It gives us the green light to move forward with structuring a pilot and really doing some deep dive work and heavy lifting into agreements and again, structuring the pilot and types of things. And so we would need your preliminary approval to move forward with those types of things. But again, that second bite comes with the public hearing. And again, you have another approval at the final stage when everything is kind of on the table and you have access to all of the information.
Okay, thanks, appreciate that.
I do have a question.
Excellent, thank you, Jade.
The question is,
yes, sir.
It was mentioned that there possibly could be some participation on the part of the Finance Authority on some of these projects. Do you have any instance where we might have to participate, in what degree?
I'll let Damon address what FANO's participation would be or could be on projects as it relates to bond financing or tax credit financing, but those are some of the different vehicles and roles that the Finance Authority can play. Damon?
Yeah, sure. For these projects that we're looking at today, these are approvals of pilots only. Right. But moving forward, Finance New Orleans is able to issue bonds, tax-exempt bonds, or even taxable bonds for housing and other types of issues as well. But as it relates to tax credits and other sources of funding that are needed to complete these projects, we don't provide any of those at the moment. Finance New Orleans is specifically focused on bonds and tax abatements at the moment, and there are different options for us growing both programs, especially as it relates to helping developers access funding from local banks for these types of projects. Normally, banks are not as consistent at buying housing bonds as they are investing in other types of projects. So using our resources, our public resources, our public wealth, we're trying to normalize that process for banks, for local banks, so that we can create more access for local developers to do more bond deals. So the type of participation that's going to come from Finance New Orleans at the moment is limited to tax abatements as well as bond financing. But in the future, there's opportunity for us to grow other types of products, and we know that there's a need for different types of products. But this is where we're beginning our process.
Thank you.
So
Thank
Giselle,
you, everyone. Yes.
Giselle, I interrupted. I think we were voting and
Yes,
are we still in the voting process?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yes, so we had a motion. It was moved and properly second. We had discussion. And so now we'll take the vote. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes on 48 Sheffman Tour Apartments revitalization. Jay, are you ready for the next summary resolution?
Yes, Madam Chair, the next resolution is a resolution giving preliminary approval and authorization to proceed with the development of an in lieu tax plan in connection with a historic building located at 5909 St. Claude Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, for LTFC Alembic LLC, and providing for other matters with respect to the foregoing. Alembic, I apologize. Thank you, Angelica.
Yeah, they're watching, so.
Alembic, I apologize.
Thank you. All right. We will, any discussion before I move on this item? Okay. Hearing none, I will move preliminary approval of the McDonald 19 revitalization project as recommended by the Programs Committee.
Thank you.
Jay, was that right?
You just made a motion. You still need a second before you take.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chase. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Aye.
Hearing none, motion passes. Congratulations, staff and board. We have 2 new projects.
I have a question.
Yes, question, yes. Mr. Brown,
Okay,
sure.
to Ms. Jada. And looking forward to the developers webinar series that you're going to conduct on the 28th of August, is that correct?
Correct.
The flow chart that you provided us with, an excellent flow chart. We're at stage 4 of that process, and that we've just completed the preliminary approval. Could you provide, I didn't see that flow chart in any of the literature that I got. I'm sure you're going to share it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's my apologies, Mr. Brown. That's actually a chart that we shared a while back. This was months ago when we first had discussions around the pilots and how they worked. My apologies. I will resend that to staff, and they have already said that they would upload it to your systems or email it out so that you guys can have that handy and understand the process going forward. Just in conversations with Damon and Bianca last week and preparing for the meeting, we just thought it would be good just to have a quick refresher during the Programs Committee meeting, just to, re-up everybody on the pilots and the process.
Well,
it's like the first time we've seen that flow chart. It was a big hit. Thank you, Jay.
On the flyer.
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Brown.
I said there was an excellent picture of her on a flyer. It's pretty. Nice picture and nice flyer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you all so much. All right. Are we ready to move on the agenda? All right. We'll move to the Executive Management Report, 2020 Action Plan, Damon.
Sure, just to give the board an update on 2020 action plan, a few things I want to pull out. We're moving toward the end of the year. So we're of course starting to plan for next year at this point. And we've had a chance to really think deeply about some of the things that we want to do over the next 1 to 3 years and even over a 10-year period. So we plan to spend time during our retreat this year, planning out the next 10 years because we've been able to gather enough data that we feel comfortable in bringing the board a 10-year vision. So the work is being done right now in the background to help get feedback from all of our partner agencies, you know, some of the data that we're getting from the community, some feedback from the community. And once we move into October during our normal board retreat, we'll spend some time presenting this information to the board so that you can give us feedback on what you see the next 10 years looking like based on the progress that we've made thus far. And that represents a chance for us to, while we're announcing a new name and a new brand image to the community, to announce a vision for the next 10 years. So that work has already began, and we will provide you with an update next month, and then be prepared to give you a formal report in October so that you can approve it, and we'll roll into 2021 with a 10-year vision. We'll market that to the community. But more importantly, we're going to take action based on the steps that are laid out within that 10-year vision plan. And it all connects back to things that we're doing today, some of the projects that you've approved and looked at already. You know, that's the foundation. So it's just a step-by-step plan or roadmap, I should say, for us to fully flesh out this vision that we've been presenting to the board over the last 6 months to a year. So that's the most important thing I'd like to bring out this month. Otherwise, we're continuing to work on fleshing out the CEA. Approving these deals today is a big part of the CEA and represents our opportunity to create revenue. And by the way, these are 40-year revenue contracts, or contracts that can last us such a long time that it presents recurring revenue opportunities for Finance New Orleans. And it also presents an opportunity for us to securitize those fees so that we can create more investment opportunities. So create more bond investment programs, invest in you know, specialty projects that we normally wouldn't be able to invest in because we wouldn't have the free revenue stream to do it. Well, this program provides us with that opportunity. So our strategic planning and action planning moving forward will be based around our ability to generate these types of revenues. And also we're connecting with local banks, our capital providers, as we're calling them. We have some local banks and specialty financiers that we've been talking to through the R&D process about helping us fund this 10-year vision. So as you know, the environmental impact bonds we've been studying for the duration of this year also play a role in that long-term funding. Mm-hmm. So we're starting to get a better picture of precisely what we want to ask the market for, what we want to ask foundations for. And, you know, we've gone out and made some asks over the last 2 to 3 years, but the response that we've gotten so far is, well, we need more detail. Tell us exactly what you're going to do with this money and how it's going to provide an impact. And then we can talk about making the investment. So I'm happy to report that we are moving toward that end. We feel comfortable going back investors for, you know, the information that we've been presenting over the last couple of years. We just know a whole lot more at this point. So Mr. Badger is leading the EIB process on our behalf. And I know we didn't spend much time talking about that today, but we expect to be ready to enter the market at the end of this year. And, you know, by being able to enter the market at the end of this year, we'll have program funding coming in the door the first quarter and second quarter of next year. And that'll help us to scale up these programs. But the bright side is we have enough funding and capacity to get started today, as you've seen with the approval of these projects. So we don't need to wait until we fundraise in order to do it, but the fundraising could help accelerate our overall costs. And then 2 more things I want to mention. We started the developer webinar series a couple of weeks ago. We had over 100 developers to tune in to our first developer webinar series. We were joined by Mr. That's Keith. Awesome. Yeah, it was a very great response, much better than we expected. Mm-hmm. Public really showed out. We had a lot of small developers on the line. Mr. Keith Cunningham from LAC and Mrs. Margiana Willman from the City of New Orleans, the OCD, Office of the OCD office. And they were able to join in, and we were talking about our partnership and some of the plans that we have for the future. The developers have reached out to us specifically about how can we provide support to small developers or smaller projects. So while the program is not fully designed to accommodate those developers or projects at the moment. We are listening and trying to figure out ways to help that cause. So the city has made it clear that's important to them. The city council has made that clear. So it's on our list of priorities. But otherwise, we have an upcoming investor webinar, partnering with NOLA BA. As you recall, we were supposed to have an investor summit this year, but it was postponed due to COVID. And so we're still figuring out how we're going to manage that next year. But for now, NOLA BA was able to receive some funding to allow us to do a webinar, a teaser webinar, if you will. So it'll only be about an hour and a half, but NOLA BA, the city, and Finance New Orleans, we each talk about our plans moving forward and how we're working together to accomplish some of the things that are going to be in our 10-year vision, things that are in the city's long-term vision, and same for NOLA BA. So that's going to happen in October, and we expect to have as good of a turnout as we have for the developer webinar, but it'll be a different audience. It'll be a national audience of investors, other types of commercial developers that are interested in making an investment in New Orleans. That concludes my executive management report. Just wanted to give you an update on the action plan. But again, we're developing new action items moving into 2021. So we plan to be more precise, more focused next year, and have some better ideas of what our targets should be.
Gotcha. And our retreat is scheduled for October still.
So yes, we of course are meeting. Our board meetings are the third Tuesday of each month. But if you recall, we normally do our board retreats on Fridays. That was pre-COVID. So it's up to the board if you'd like to keep it on, if you would like to keep our board schedule consistent, or if we'd like to have it on a Friday that particular month, so that we can give ourselves enough time to go through the big agenda that we usually have for retreats.
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Brown.
This is one of the more, I would like to first of all congratulate the staff and the executive director. This is one of the most outstanding meetings I've attended since I've been on the board, since I've been back on the board. And I just want to congratulate the two of them. And only one other question, and is that Damon mentioned that there was access, or we have access to YouTube with the Finance Authority. I'd just like to know how can we access that site or YouTube with the Finance Authority and more.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Yes, I agree on the meeting comment. Damon, you want to explain the YouTube situation?
I'm sorry, can you clarify that comment, Mr. Brown? I didn't completely understand.
Mentioned that one could access the Finance Authority on a YouTube channel. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
can you describe how we might be able to access that, please?
Sure. So the Finance Authority has a page on YouTube, and search Finance Authority on YouTube. Our page comes up, and all of the videos that we've recorded and posted are provided on that page. And then also, if we're in a live meeting, like at this very moment, if you go on our page, you'll see that there's an icon or a thumbnail for a meeting that's happening live. So the public, of course, the people, if they're on, they're seeing us on YouTube at the moment, but just so the board knows and anyone that wants to spread the word, all anyone has to do is go to youtube.com and search Finance Authority of New Orleans, and our page will come up and you'll be able to see every video that we posted.
Perfect. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
No problem.
Awesome. All right. Do we have anything for, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong agenda. Where are we? Executive session? Don't believe so, right? Okay, any other business?
No.
All right. Hearing none. I just want to again echo Mr. Brown's sentiments and congratulate staff and the board for all of the hard work that we've done this year. And collectively, I mean, we've done, I think a yeoman's job of making sure that we move everything that we decided to do last year at our retreat. And so in light of COVID and everything, we've still moved forward. So congratulations again, great work. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Vice Chair, if
Yes.
and one more comment before we hang up. And I just also want to recognize in front of our public audience, recognize our volunteer board. You yourselves are members of the community, and you don't get paid to do this. You do this on a strictly volunteer basis, and you give your time and effort. So just want the public to know that they do have a volunteer board working on their behalf, and also that this board set the stage for us to have a big vision and for us to be able to take advantage of some of these opportunities. So that's been a priority of yours ever since before this staff was ever in place. So I think it's important to recognize you for that, and let the audience know that we have board members that have been working for many, many years to help bring some real impact to New Orleans. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Damon. Thank you so much. Congratulations again. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I mean,
non-debatable.
Second.
It's been moved in second. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much.
All right. Thank y'all. Have a great day.
You too. See y'all next month.
Thank you.